Saturday, 31st of January 1953. A winter storm races south across the North Sea. Wind speeds exceed 100 miles per hour. Most of Britain sleeps peacefully, unaware that the deadliest natural disaster of the century approaches. The barometer plummets to its lowest reading in decades. A severe European windstorm combines with the highest spring tide of the year. The North Sea begins to rise. Water levels climb 3.5 meters above normal. At 10:32 in the morning, the Stranraer to Larne ferry, Princess Victoria, transmits her first distress signal. Waves have smashed open her stern cargo doors. Water pours into the car deck. 179 souls are aboard. Radio officer David Broadfoot stays at his post. He transmits position updates as the ship lists further. At 2 o'clock, the captain gives the order to abandon ship. Broadfoot continues sending until the very end. He will receive a posthumous George Cross. Only 44 survive. 133 perish in the freezing Irish Sea. Among the dead are the captain and his crew who stayed aboard. It is the worst British maritime disaster since the Titanic. The surge races between Orkney and Shetland. Scotland endures its most devastating storm in 500 years. In Creevy, Banffshire, entire buildings are swept into the Murray Firth. 19 Scots perish. Many survivors never return. The storm surge funnels into the shallow southern North Sea. Its power intensifies. From Lincolnshire to Kent, over 1,600 kilometers of coastline face the approaching wall of water. Sea defenses, weakened by wartime neglect, stand unprepared. Saturday evening. Families gather around wireless sets across eastern England. But at midnight, the BBC stops broadcasting. Television is rare. There is no national flood warning system. The storm surge will arrive while Britain sleeps. Nobody is prepared for what comes next. The surge strikes Lincolnshire first. At Mablethorpe and Sutton-on-Sea, waves over 6 meters high crash through flood defenses. Water reaches 3 kilometers inland. Police officers Charles Lewis and Leonard Detford begin desperate rescue work. Officer Lewis leaps from an upper window to save an elderly couple being swept away. He carries them through 3 feet of freezing floodwater to safety, then returns for more. Both officers will receive the George Medal for their courage. At Hunstanton-on-the-Wash, the sea wall fails without warning. Water surges through South Beach, where wooden holiday bungalows house year-round residents. Many are elderly. The floodwater rises faster than people can escape. American airman Rice Lemming, just 22 years old, hears screams from flooded bungalows. Wearing an exposure suit, he swims into the darkness, pulling a rubber dinghy. Trip after trip, he plucks survivors from rooftops and floating debris. After his third trip, Lemming collapses from exhaustion and hypothermia. He has saved 27 lives. He becomes the first foreigner ever awarded the George Medal. Queen Elizabeth herself presents the honor at Buckingham Palace. Staff Sergeant Freeman Kilpatrick places his own family upstairs, then swims through raging floodwater to warn neighbors. He rescues 18 people before returning home. His family must spend the entire night on their roof. He also receives the George Medal. The surge reaches King's Lynn. The River Great Ouse bursts its banks. Water floods through the ancient south gates into the town center. 15 people drown in working-class neighborhoods. 1/5 of the town is submerged. Lieutenant John Jones volunteers to lead rescue operations. On Diamond Street, where several have already drowned, he carries elderly and invalid residents through chest-high water. He continues until near collapse, saving dozens of lives. He receives the MBE for his bravery. Inside King's Lynn Minster, water rises over 1 meter. The medieval church, standing since the 12th century, suffers damage unseen in its 800-year history. West Lynne remains underwater for 2 full weeks.
At Wells next the sea, the surge deposits a 160-ton vessel on top of the quay wall.
Local fishermen stare in disbelief at the impossible sight. The North Sea has revealed its terrifying power. At Felixstowe, the surge strikes the West End. Prefabricated bungalows built cheaply after the war offer no resistance. These wooden structures float off their foundations. 41 people die, many of them trapped inside their flimsy homes.
On Langer Road, entire families perish together.
A teddy bear floats among the wreckage. 70 years later, it will be carried to the memorial service by a survivor who clutched it that terrible night as a child. Harwich, the ancient port, takes the full force of the surge. 8 people die. The harbour becomes a scene of destruction. Rescue boats launch into the darkness, their crews not knowing what horrors await along the coast.
At Jaywick, near Clacton, the sea rises 1 meter in just 15 minutes. 37 people drown.
The average age of victims is 66. These are elderly residents in flimsy wooden chalets. They have no chance to escape the surge. Rescuers face an impossible task. They have no way of knowing which chalets are occupied and which stand empty. 5% of Jaywick's entire population perishes in a single night. It is the highest death rate along the flooded coast. Shortly after midnight, the sea walls on Canvey Island collapse. Water pours through breaches in the Newlands area. 10,000 people live on this low-lying Thames estuary island. Many sleep in single-story prefab bungalows.
Water floods bungalows to depths of 5 feet.
Elderly residents, unable to climb to safety, drown in their beds. 42 of the 58 victims are over 60 years old. The island's entire population must be evacuated.
Corporal Thomas Stevenson of the Royal Corps of Signals arrives at 6:30 in the morning.
He spends 12 hours without rest, carrying elderly people and children through dangerous floodwater. Hidden ditches 9 feet deep pose constant, deadly threats.
Local fishermen become heroes.
They launch their boats into streets turned to rivers. One by one, they pull survivors from upstairs windows and rooftops. Their intimate knowledge of the island's waterways saves countless lives.
One policeman's daughter remembers her father's silence.
He spent days retrieving bodies from flooded houses. Bodies of people he knew. Even in his 80s, there were things he had seen that he could never speak about. The surge travels up the Thames estuary. From Tilbury to London's Docklands, oil refineries, cement works, gas works, and power stations flood. Industry grinds to a halt. 100 meters of seawall collapse in London's East End.
In Silvertown, water overspills the Royal Docks.
It drains into sewers and floods back through Canning Town. Night watchman William Hayward dies from exposure to gas from a damaged pipe. He is London's only fatality.
The village of Creekmouth, at the mouth of the River Roding, is wholly flooded by the sea surge.
Every building is damaged beyond repair. The ancient settlement will be demolished entirely. Its residents are relocated elsewhere in Barking. A community erased from the map.
At Sheerness Dockyard, Petty Officer Samuel Horlick sees a ship in dry dock about to capsize.
Another vessel has already overturned. Leading 5 men below decks by candlelight, he works for an hour in semi-darkness to seal the engine room. His courage saves the ship. Dawn breaks on Sunday, the 1st of February. The full scale of the catastrophe becomes clear. The army mobilizes in one of Britain's largest peacetime operations. At its peak, over 30,000 emergency workers deploy along the devastated coastline. This is Britain's greatest rescue effort since Dunkirk.
American helicopters from RAF Sculthorpe arrive over Norfolk.
Britain has almost no helicopters of its own. The United States 3rd Air Force provides crucial support. 17 Americans die in the floods, and nearly 70 military families lose everything they own. Yet they continue rescuing British civilians. Stories of courage deserve to be remembered. If you value these accounts of British history and heroism, please subscribe to this channel. Press the bell icon to ensure you never miss another documentary. Your support helps preserve these remarkable stories for future generations. Like and share this film. The evacuation of Canvey Island becomes the largest in British peacetime history. 10,000 residents must leave their homes. Convoys of buses and military lorries carry shocked families to emergency shelters across Essex. Many will not return for 6 weeks. Some will never go back at all. Emergency shelters open across eastern England. The Women's Voluntary Service works around the clock. 32,000 people are homeless. Many have escaped with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Church halls, schools, and community centers become temporary refuges for families who have lost everything. The fight to close the breaches begins immediately. Sea walls have been breached in 1,200 places along the coast. Engineers work frantically to prevent further flooding at the next high tide. Sandbags, rubble, and anything available are thrown into the gaps. The sea must be held back. The floods devastate British agriculture. 160,000 acres of prime farmland are inundated with salt water. 46,000 livestock drown. The salt contamination will poison the soil for years, even decades. Some land will never fully recover. The true cost to farmers cannot be measured. When floodwaters recede, thick mud covers everything. Council lorries arrive with warm air hoses to dry out damaged homes. Families spend days removing the foul-smelling sludge. Many possessions are ruined beyond salvation. The cleanup takes weeks. The emotional scars will last much longer. 307 people die on land in England. 19 perish in Scotland. 224 are lost at sea. The true death toll exceeds 500 British souls. Communities hold mass funerals. Entire families have been wiped out in a single night. The government launches an inquiry. Viscount Waverley, former Chancellor and Home Secretary, leads the investigation. His report is devastating. Britain had no national flood warning system. Each community along the coast was inundated unexpectedly as they slept. The warnings never reached the people in time. The Waverley Committee recommends fundamental changes. A national coastal flood warning system is quickly established. Weather forecasters and tidal authorities begin coordinating for the first time. Never again will British communities face a deadly surge without warning. The system remains in operation to this day. The disaster exposes London's vulnerability. 7 million people live behind inadequate defenses. Planning begins for a revolutionary solution. It will take 3 decades, but eventually the Thames Barrier rises at Woolwich. Opened in 1984, it remains one of the world's largest movable flood barriers. Queen Elizabeth, newly crowned, visits the flood-stricken areas. She speaks with families who have lost everything. The young monarch sees firsthand the devastation wrought upon her subjects. Relief funds pour in from across the Commonwealth. The nation rallies to support its stricken eastern counties. 97 gallantry awards are made for heroism during the floods. More British awards than for any single non-warlike event in history. 3 George medals. 17 British Empire medals. The courage of ordinary people transforms tragedy into testament to human spirit in the face of nature's fury. Massive investment in coastal defenses follows. New sea walls rise along the eastern coast. The damage has been estimated at £50 million in 1953 money, over £1.2 billion in today's terms. 24,000 properties require extensive repairs or complete reconstruction.
58 years pass before Canvey Island unveils its memorial plaque.
58 names are inscribed outside the library. Communities along the coast hold services of remembrance. Blue plaques mark the height of the floodwater in Leigh-on-Sea and Sutton-on-Sea. Britain vows never to forget.
Historian Hilda Grieve spends years documenting every aspect of the Essex floods. Her book, The Great Tide, published in 1959, becomes the definitive record. The Essex Record Office preserves survivor testimonies. Oral histories ensure the voices of that terrible night are never silenced. The night the sea took the shore changed Britain forever. From tragedy came transformation, better warnings, stronger defenses. A nation that learned the sea shows no mercy to those unprepared. 307 souls taken, thousands of heroes made. A coast that will never forget.